Victor stormed into the opulent kitchen, his voice echoing off the marble walls as he berated the maid for a trivial mistake. But as he turned to leave, he caught sight of her crumpled form on the floor, cradling a tiny, wailing baby in her arms. It was his child, born from a night he could never remember, yet a bond that shattered his world. Time froze at that moment. The clock ticked past 3 p.m., but it felt as though life had just begun anew. My name is Victor. Everything I thought I knew is a lie. The sight of Clara, her face streaked with tears, and the fragile form of my son nestled against her chest forced a wave of confusion over me. I stood there, paralyzed by the weight of the truth crashing down around us. My heart raced as I took in the scene, the unthinkable realization that I had not only been a distant father, but had also contributed to Clara's pain with my words. The turmoil in her eyes mirrored my own, a reflection of shattered trust and unexpected responsibility. I took a cautious step closer, my feet heavy with the burden of regret and the desire to understand. "Clara," I whispered, not knowing how to address the chaos that surrounded us. She looked up, her gaze sharp with vulnerability, yet there was an undeniable strength in her posture as she held my son. I was struck by the way she cradled him, as if he were the most precious thing in the world, and in that moment, I felt the weight of my own failure as a father. I had been so wrapped up in my own ambitions that I had overlooked the people around me, people who needed my care and attention. The reality of my estrangement from Ellen and Samuel felt like a deep chasm, one I was now desperate to bridge. "Victor," Clara began, but her voice cracked, the words tumbling away into silence as she glanced down at the baby, whose cries were subsiding into soft whimpers. I could see the exhaustion etched on her face, the struggle of a single mother trying to keep it all together while dealing with my own harshness. There was so much I needed to say, yet I found myself stumbling over my thoughts, unsure of how to express the torrent of emotions that threatened to overwhelm me. I reached out instinctively, my fingers brushing against the fabric of the baby's blanket, and a rush of warmth surged through me as I realized that I was finally witnessing a part of my life I had long neglected. "His name is Samuel," Clara finally said, her voice steadier now, laced with a quiet pride. The name sent a jolt through me, a mixture of joy and sorrow. I had spent years avoiding the reality of my decisions, and now that reality was staring back at me in the form of a tiny face, a reflection of both myself and the woman before me. "He's so much like you," she continued, a hint of a smile tugging at her lips despite the situation. I felt an urge to laugh, yet it caught in my throat. How could I find humor in the wreckage I had left behind? I knelt down, bringing myself to eye level with the child. As Samuel's bright eyes met mine, a warmth spread through my chest, stirring emotions I had long buried under layers of ambition and self-preservation. In that moment, I wanted nothing more than to protect him, to be the father I had failed to be up until now. "Can I hold him?" I asked, my voice trembling with uncertainty. Clara hesitated, her instincts as a mother kicking in, but then she shifted slightly, allowing me to take the tiny bundle into my arms. The weight of him was both a joy and a revelation. I felt an overwhelming urge to wrap my arms around Clara as well, to make amends for the hurt I had caused. As I held Samuel, I could feel his warmth seeping into my skin, and my heart swelled with an unfamiliar sense of hope. I looked at Clara, and for the first time, I saw her not just as my maid, but as a woman who had fought against her circumstances to nurture this life. "I'm so sorry for how I treated you," I said quietly, knowing I could never fully express the depth of my regret. "I never meant to hurt you." She nodded, her eyes glistening with unspoken thoughts. I could see the weight of her struggle etched across her face, yet she maintained a composure that inspired me. "Things haven't been easy, Victor," she said, her tone tinged with both bitterness and resilience. "But I've done my best for Samuel." The pride she spoke of was palpable, and I felt a knot tighten in my throat. I've been trying to raise him alone, without any help. The reality of her loneliness and the sacrifices she had made enveloped me, amplifying my regret. I realized how blind I had been to her struggles, caught up in my own world of success and neglect. "I want to help," I found myself saying, surprising even myself with the sincerity behind my words. "I want to be part of his life." The statement hung in the air, heavy with implications. Clara's expression softened, and for a moment I glimpsed a flicker of hope, perhaps the beginning of healing. "I don't want you to feel you have to do this alone," I continued, my heart racing at the thought of taking responsibility. "I want to be there for both of you." Tears brimmed in Clara's eyes, and I was struck by the intensity of her emotions. "I don't know if it will be that simple," she replied, her voice breaking slightly. "You have your life, your business, and I have my own battles to fight." She was right, of course. My life was complicated, filled with obligations and expectations, yet I couldn't ignore the undeniable bond that had formed between us. "I know I can't change the past," I said, my determination rising, "but I can be here now." As I continued to cradle Samuel, I felt an inexplicable connection to him, something that transcended the chaos that had brought us to this moment. I wanted to be present, to be the father I had never been, and perhaps, in doing so, help Clara find the support she so desperately needed. With each passing second, the walls I had built around my heart began to crumble. It was terrifying, this vulnerability, but it was also freeing. I could see the possibilities stretching out before us, a path towards understanding, forgiveness, and maybe even a new family formed from the remnants of old wounds. As I gazed into Clara's eyes, I felt a flicker of understanding pass between us, a silent agreement to embark on this uncertain journey together. The road ahead would not be easy, but I could no longer stand by and watch as life unfolded without me. I was ready to embrace the love that had been waiting for me all along. As the weight of my actions hung heavily in the air, I took a deep breath and sat down across from Clara. The gentle rise and fall of Samuel's tiny form in her arms brought a sense of calm to the storm of emotions raging within me. I had spent years building a life defined by success and wealth, yet here I was, struck by the realization that true fulfillment lay beyond material achievements. I glanced at the soft features of my son, blissfully unaware of the chaos that surrounded him, and felt a pang of guilt wash over me. This child, innocent and pure, was a part of me, an extension of my own essence that I had neglected out of sheer ignorance. I could no longer ignore the bond that connected us, nor the one forming between Clara and me. "Clara," I began, my voice barely above a whisper, "I'm so sorry for how I treated you earlier. I was harsh and cold, and that was unforgivable." She looked at me, her expression a mixture of wariness and hope, as if she was unsure whether to believe in my sincerity. I could see the toll that life had taken on her. Her tired eyes spoke volumes of her struggles as a single mother, and in that moment, I wanted nothing more than to ease her burden. "I never knew about Samuel, and I can't begin to fathom the challenges you faced alone. I want to understand, to help. Can you let me in?" Clara's gaze softened slightly, and she shifted Samuel in her arms, cradling him protectively. "It's not that simple, Victor. You've built a life that doesn't include me or him. You're not ready for the responsibilities that come with being a father, not to mention what it means to be a partner in this." Her words stung, but they also ignited a fire within me. I had spent too much time focused on my career, chasing after success while neglecting the people who mattered most. Perhaps it was time to redefine my priorities. "I may not have been ready before, but I want to be now," I insisted, leaning forward earnestly. "I know that I have a lot to learn, but I want to be part of your lives. I want to support you both, to be there for Samuel as he grows up." As I spoke, I felt a sense of vulnerability wash over me. It was foreign, but exhilarating. It felt as though I was shedding layers of armor I had worn for so long, revealing a softer, more genuine version of myself. Clara remained quiet, her eyes searching mine, as if looking for the truth in my words. The atmosphere shifted slightly, a small crack in the wall she had built between us. I felt encouraged and wanted to keep pushing forward, despite my fear of rejection. "Let's start small," I suggested. "I can help with anything you need, whether it's groceries, childcare, or just someone to talk to. I'm here. I've neglected my family for too long, and I want to make amends." After a long pause, Clara finally spoke. "You really mean it, don't you? You want to be part of our lives?" Her voice was tentative, filled with a mix of hope and skepticism. I nodded, willing her to see the sincerity in my eyes. "Yes, I do," I said firmly. "We can take this one step at a time. I'm willing to fight for this family." The corners of Clara's mouth lifted slightly as she pondered my words. "All right," she replied slowly. "But trust takes time, Victor. You can't just wave a magic wand and make everything perfect. Samuel and I have built our lives without you, and there will be challenges ahead." Her caution was warranted, and I appreciated her honesty. She was right. I could not expect everything to change overnight. With each passing moment, I felt a sense of purpose blooming within me. I was no longer just a businessman. I was a father and a partner, ready to embrace the complexities of family life. We spent the next few days forging a fragile connection. I helped Clara with daily chores, accompanying her on errands, and slowly learning how to care for Samuel. I was clumsy at first, often fumbling with the baby bottles and diapers, but Clara's laughter when I made mistakes brought warmth to my heart. Each giggle from Samuel filled me with a sense of pride that I had never known before. As I immersed myself in this new role, I began to realize just how much I had missed by staying distant. Clara would share stories about Samuel's milestones, his first words, his attempts to crawl, and the way he lit up when he saw her. I was finally experiencing the joy that came with being a part of their lives, and it was exhilarating. As our days turned into weeks, Clara and I grew more comfortable with each other. We shared stories of our past, our dreams, and our fears. I learned of her struggles as a single mother, the sleepless nights spent soothing Samuel when he was sick, and the sacrifices she made to provide for him. One evening, after a long day of work, I returned home to find Clara sitting on the couch with Samuel asleep in her arms. The sight struck a chord deep within me. Clara looked so peaceful, and I couldn't help but admire her strength and resilience. I quietly approached and gently touched Samuel's tiny foot, feeling a wave of affection wash over me. This was my family, however unconventional it may be, and I was determined to protect them. I turned my gaze to Clara, who was now watching me with a curious expression. "You really care about him, don't you?" she asked softly. I nodded, my heart swelling with emotion. "I care about both of you. I want to be the father and partner you deserve, even if it means facing my own shortcomings." In that moment, I felt a connection between us that transcended words. Clara smiled, the kind of smile that reached her eyes and lit up her entire face. I knew that the journey ahead would be filled with challenges, but for the first time in my life, I felt hopeful about the future. As I took my seat beside her, I realized that embracing vulnerability was the first step towards healing, and I was ready to face whatever came next. In Clara and Samuel, I found not just a family, but a chance at redemption, love, and a new beginning. If you found this story compelling and wish to follow along on this emotional journey, please subscribe for updates on the unfolding tale of Victor, Clara, and their quest for a renewed family bond. As I held Clara and Samuel close, I could feel the weight of my past decisions pressing down on my chest. The warmth of the small body nestled against me was both comforting and jarring. It served as a reminder of what I had almost lost. My life had been consumed by ambition and the relentless pursuit of success. In the process, I had forgotten the simple joys that truly mattered: love, connection, and the laughter of my son, which I had only ever heard through the echoes of Clara's stories. I glanced at Clara. her eyes reflecting a mixture of vulnerability and strength. Here was a woman who had endured so much, yet she had remained resilient for Samuel. I could see it in her actions, the way she cradled him, the way she spoke to him softly, infusing him with a sense of security that I had neglected to provide. The gravity of my negligence weighed heavily on my heart. I realized that my brash demeanor had not just affected Clara, but it had created a distance between me and my own child, a distance that was becoming increasingly difficult to bridge. "Clara, I'm so sorry," I finally whispered, my voice barely above a murmur. The apology felt inadequate, yet it was a start. She met my gaze, and for a moment we exchanged an understanding that transcended words. It was in that silence that I acknowledged the layers of pain I had caused, not only to her, but to myself and, most importantly, to Samuel. The complexities of our lives had intertwined in a way I never anticipated, but now that they were unraveled before me, I knew I had to step up. As the days passed, I found myself returning home earlier, eager to spend time with Clara and Samuel. I watched how Clara moved through our home, her presence a balm that soothed the harshness of my previous life. She filled the space with laughter and love, creating an atmosphere I had long forgotten. Cooking meals together became a cherished ritual. Samuel, perched on the counter, would giggle as Clara spun him around, her laughter ringing like music. I couldn't help but join in, feeling the warmth of familial joy wrapping around us. It was in these moments that I felt the walls I had built around my heart begin to crumble. One evening, while Clara prepared dinner, I decided to engage her in conversation about her life before Samuel. I wanted to understand her better, to know the woman who had so fiercely loved my child. "What was it like for you before you came to work here?" I asked, leaning against the kitchen island. Clara paused, her hand stilling as she turned to meet my curious gaze. There was a flicker of hesitation in her eyes, but she began to share her story, her words painting a picture of struggle, sacrifice, and an unwavering determination to provide for her child. She spoke of sleepless nights spent studying to better her situation, and the challenges she faced as a single mother. I listened intently, absorbing the weight of her experiences. Each word deepened my understanding of her strength, and with it, my admiration for her grew. In that moment, I realized that I had misjudged her. She was far more than just a maid in my home. Clara was a warrior, fighting daily for a better life for herself and Samuel. That night, as we sat together, Samuel nestled between us, I felt an overwhelming sense of clarity. I was determined to do more than just exist in this new reality. I needed to be an active participant in their lives. It was time to take responsibility, not just as a father, but also as a supportive partner to Clara. I wanted to ensure that Samuel knew the depth of his worth and the love that surrounded him. I wanted Clara to feel valued and respected, no longer just defined by her role in my household, but celebrated as an integral part of our family. As the weeks turned into months, the bond among the three of us continued to strengthen. Clara and I began to share more responsibilities, whether it was helping with Samuel's homework or making plans for weekend outings. I even began to take an interest in Clara's life aspirations, encouraging her to pursue further education. I wanted her to dream, to see that her future could be filled with possibilities beyond what she had known. The more I learned about her hopes, the more inspired I became to support her journey. However, as I grew closer to Clara and Samuel, I felt a shadow from my past creeping back into my life. Ellen, my estranged wife, had not been entirely absent from my thoughts. I knew that at some point I would have to confront her. The thought of facing her filled me with anxiety. After all, our marriage had ended in bitterness and resentment. Yet, it was clear that Samuel deserved to have his mother in his life, and I couldn't deny that both Clara and Ellen held vital roles in shaping his future. One evening, as Clara and I were preparing for bed, I shared my concerns with her. I think I need to reach out to Ellen, I confessed, feeling the weight of the decision settle heavily on my shoulders. Clara listened intently, her expression thoughtful. "You're doing this for Samuel, right?" she asked, her voice steady. I nodded, knowing that while this was necessary for our son, it was also a chance for me to confront my past and, hopefully, heal some old wounds. "Just remember, you're not alone in this," Clara reassured me, placing her hand on mine. That simple gesture filled me with a sense of comfort, and for the first time, I felt hopeful about the future. We would face whatever challenges lay ahead together, and I was ready to embrace the new dynamics of our family. The journey toward healing was just beginning. But with Clara and Samuel by my side, I felt ready to take the next step. As the days turned into weeks, a fragile but undeniable bond began to blossom between Clara, Samuel, and me. I found myself often wandering into the nursery, drawn by the laughter that echoed through the halls whenever Clara played with my son. Her voice was like a melody, soothing and comforting, and it filled a space in my heart that I hadn't realized was empty. Every time I watched them together, I felt a spark of joy, mingled with guilt for having overlooked the beauty of this small family until now. It was during one of those moments, as I sat quietly observing Clara reading to Samuel, that I recognized how much I had changed. The sharp edges of my life, defined by work and ambition, began to soften. I realized that success meant little without love and connection. Clara looked up from the book, catching my gaze, and for a fleeting moment, we shared a silent understanding that something profound had shifted between us. I could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the weight of her responsibilities, yet there was also a flicker of hope that resonated deeply within me. One evening, as we sat around the dinner table, Samuel giggling at my clumsy attempts to make him laugh, I felt compelled to ask Clara about her life. I leaned in, my curiosity overtaking my hesitation. "Clara, what was it like before you came to work here?" I asked, breaking the comfortable silence that enveloped us. She hesitated, looking down at her plate, but after a moment, she spoke. "It was hard, Mr. Victor. I had to make choices every day that weighed heavily on my heart. I was working 2 jobs to support Samuel, always worried about what would happen if something went wrong." Her voice trembled slightly, and I could hear the struggle behind her words. "But when I came here, I thought maybe I could give him a better life." I listened intently, feeling a mixture of admiration and sorrow for the sacrifices she had made. It dawned on me then that Clara had been fighting a battle I had only glimpsed from a distance. "You're doing an incredible job with him," I said softly, realizing how often I had taken her efforts for granted. "He's thriving because of you." The corners of her mouth lifted ever so slightly, and I could see the appreciation in her eyes. "Thank you," she said simply, and there was a warmth in her tone that made my heart swell. In that moment, I vowed to support her, not just as an employer, but as a partner in raising our son. Ellen's absence weighed heavily on my mind. I had spent so much time avoiding the reality of our separation, thinking that ignoring the problem would somehow make it go away. But as I watched Clara nurture Samuel, I realized that my child deserved more than just a fractured family. He needed a sense of belonging, of unity, something I had the power to create. It was time to reach out to Ellen, to communicate with her openly for the sake of our son. One afternoon, while Clara was putting Samuel down for a nap, I picked up the phone and hesitated before dialing Ellen's number. The sound of ringing felt like an eternity, each tone resonating with my rising anxiety. When she finally picked up, I could hear the cautious tone in her voice, as if she were bracing herself for an argument that had long been overdue. "Victor?" she asked, disbelief evident in her words. "Ellen, it's me. I know we haven't spoken in a while, but I think it's important we talk about Samuel," I began, determined to keep my voice steady. I could feel the walls I had built around my emotions starting to crumble. She listened, and I could hear the tension in her silence. I laid out everything, my regrets, my acknowledgement of Clara's role in Samuel's life, and my desire for us to co-parent effectively. "I appreciate you reaching out," Ellen finally said, her voice softer than I remembered. "It's been hard for me too, Victor. I never wanted this for our family." Her honesty struck me, and I felt a flicker of the connection we once shared. We spent the next few minutes discussing Samuel's needs, tentatively planning visits and activities that would allow us to find common ground. When I hung up, I felt a mixture of relief and apprehension. I knew rebuilding that bridge wouldn't be easy, but the first step had been taken. In the days that followed, I made a point to include Clara in these discussions, inviting her thoughts and feelings as we began to form a new family dynamic. She appreciated my efforts, and it brought us closer as we navigated these unfamiliar waters together. One rainy afternoon, while we were together in the living room, I watched Clara as she prepared to bake cookies with Samuel. Flour dust danced through the air as the two of them giggled, the sound wrapping around me like a warm blanket. I couldn't help but smile, feeling a sense of contentment I had long forgotten. In the midst of the chaos, I realized that they had become my sanctuary. As the smell of fresh cookies filled the air, I joined them in the kitchen, rolling up my sleeves. I fumbled with the ingredients, trying to keep up with Samuel's uncontainable enthusiasm. Clara laughed at my ineptitude, and for the first time, I felt a sense of belonging that had eluded me for far too long. Through laughter, baking flour, and the sound of Samuel's joy, I began to understand the importance of family and forgiveness. The road ahead was still uncertain, but I was ready to face it with Clara and Samuel by my side. Together, we would forge a new path, one built on love, understanding, and the strength of our shared experiences. As I embraced this new reality, I found myself reflecting on the moments that had led me here. I had spent so much time focused on my career, always chasing the next big deal, that I had forgotten what it meant to be truly present. Clara had become a quiet force in our lives, her laughter and warmth gradually filling the empty spaces that once felt so hollow. I could see the love she poured into her work and the care she showed to Samuel. It ignited something in me, a desire to be more than just a businessman. I wanted to be a father, a partner, and a friend. One afternoon, I decided to surprise Clara and Samuel by taking them out for ice cream. I recalled the simple joys from my childhood, the sticky fingers and laughter echoing around me as I indulged in my favorite treat. I thought perhaps this could be a moment we would cherish, a new tradition to begin. Clara looked hesitant when I suggested the outing, as if she were unsure whether she was deserving of such small pleasures. But I insisted. I wanted her to know that this was no longer just her job. She was an integral part of our family. As we walked to the ice cream parlor, the sun cast a warm glow, illuminating Clara's face and highlighting her gentle smile. Samuel, perched on my shoulders, squealed with delight as we moved along the bustling street, his laughter ringing clear like a sweet melody. It was a sound I had missed during my years lost in the shadows of my ambitions. I looked over at Clara, who was walking beside us, her eyes sparkling with a mix of surprise and joy. I wanted to capture this moment forever, to freeze time and allow it to linger in my heart. We reached the parlor, and I encouraged Samuel to pick whatever flavor he wanted. He chose a vibrant bubblegum pink that made Clara giggle as she watched him bounce with excitement. I felt a swell of happiness as I scooped up a cone of rich chocolate for myself and a creamy vanilla for Clara. We settled on a small bench outside, the warmth of the day wrapping around us like a cozy blanket. It was a simple scene, yet it felt monumental. As we savored our ice cream, I watched Clara interact with Samuel. Her gentle touch as she wiped a smudge from his cheek, her eyes lighting up every time he laughed. I couldn't help but admire her strength and resilience. She was not just the maid, she was a mother who fought tirelessly for her son, someone who deserved happiness and love. I realized then that I wanted to support her in that journey. I had a long way to go to earn her trust and respect, but I was determined to show her that I was committed to this family we were forming. After our ice cream, we wandered through the nearby park. the vibrant colors of the flowers mirroring the joy blossoming in my heart. Clara began to share snippets of her life, her struggles, and the dreams she had before motherhood took over. I listened intently, each story deepening my admiration for her. I understood now that our pasts were intertwined, filled with heartache, but also with hope for a brighter future. I wanted to help her realize her own dreams, to give her the freedom and support she needed. As we sat by the pond, watching the ducks paddle lazily across the water, I turned to Clara, my heart racing with the weight of my intentions. You know, Clara, I've been thinking a lot about how I want to change, not just for myself, but for you and Samuel. I want us to be a real family. I want you to feel like you can dream again, and I will do whatever it takes to make that happen. Clara looked at me, her expression a mix of disbelief and cautious hope, and I could see the flicker of something in her eyes, a possibility. That moment marked a turning point in our relationship. I could feel the walls that had been built around her slowly beginning to crumble, piece by piece. We started to talk more openly, sharing our fears and aspirations. I learned that she had once wanted to be a chef. Her passion for cooking ignited in childhood, but circumstances had forced her to put those dreams aside. Together, we began to sketch out plans for a small catering business that would allow her to express her creativity and independence. It was empowering for both of us, as I realized I could play a role in helping her reclaim her aspirations. Days turned into weeks, and with each shared experience, Clara and I began to build a foundation of trust and respect. I found joy in the simplest of things, sharing cooking tips, planning outings with Samuel, and watching Clara's smile grow stronger with every small success we celebrated together. Samuel thrived in this newfound atmosphere, his laughter echoing off the walls of our home, a constant reminder of the love that had blossomed between us. Ellen, on the other hand, remained a distant figure, a shadow that loomed over my life. I had not yet found the courage to reach out to her, despite the longing I felt for reconciliation. I knew that confronting the past was inevitable, but I wanted to do it on my terms. Not when I was still tied up in the chaos of my former life. It was an ongoing struggle, one that weighed heavily on my heart. Just as I began to find my footing, I received a call from Ellen one evening. My heart raced as I answered, unsure of what to expect. She wanted to meet. The urgency in her voice was palpable, and I could sense that this moment would change everything. I glanced at Clara and Samuel, their laughter spilling into the room like sunlight, and I knew I had to face the music. The journey of healing was about to take a new turn, one that would test the bonds I had started to forge with Clara and Samuel. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. As I prepared to meet Ellen, I felt a wave of determination wash over me. I would not let the past dictate my future any longer. It was time to confront the woman who had once been my partner, to embrace the lessons learned, and to carve a path toward the life I truly wanted. I would protect my new family at all costs, ready to fight for the love and connection that had so unexpectedly found me. I invite you to share your own stories of transformation and resilience. Every journey is unique and powerful, and it's through our experiences that we can inspire one another. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions. I found myself caught between the remnants of my past and the fleeting moments of hope that Clara had ignited within me. I had never considered the depth of my actions or how they would ripple out to affect the lives of those around me. Now, every glance at Clara, every coo from Samuel, made my heart ache with a mix of regret and a burgeoning sense of responsibility. One evening, as I sat alone in the vast living room of my mansion, I realized that the silence was suffocating. The walls, adorned with memories of better times with Ellen, now felt like a prison. I could almost hear the echoes of our laughter, the warmth we once shared, and the dreams we had built together. But those memories were now tainted by the reality of our separation and the choices that led us here. I picked up my phone, contemplating a call to Ellen, but hesitation gripped me. Would she even want to hear from me? Clara's gentle laughter, mingled with Samuel's gurgles, drifted from the kitchen. I felt an involuntary smile tug at my lips, a reminder that light could be found even in the darkest corners of my life. Summoning my courage, I decided to join them. Clara was bent over the stove, and the aroma of her cooking filled the air with an unexpected warmth that felt like home. Samuel was nestled in his high chair, his little hands waving excitedly as he watched Clara move about. "Dinner will be ready in a few minutes," Clara said without turning around, her voice soft yet steady. I could sense the tension from our earlier encounter still hanging in the air, but I was determined to bridge the gap. "I can help," I offered, surprising myself with the admission. Clara turned, her eyes wide with disbelief. It was a small gesture, but I hoped it would show her I was willing to change. She nodded slowly, and I grabbed a couple of utensils, awkwardly trying to mimic her movements. As we worked side by side, I stole glances at Clara. The way she handled Samuel, the patience and love she poured into every action, stirred something deep within me. I had spent so much of my life focused on wealth and status, yet here was a woman who embodied true strength, nurturing my son in a way I had never managed to. "You're incredible with him," I said, breaking the silence. Clara paused, her expression shifting from surprise to a hint of pride. "Thank you, Victor. He's a special little guy." There was something unspoken between us, a connection forged in shared responsibility and the quiet understanding of our circumstances. As the evening unfolded, I found myself captivated not just by Clara's ability to care for Samuel, but by her resilience in the face of adversity. She shared snippets of her life, her struggles, and how she had come to be in this position. I listened intently, feeling a knot of guilt tighten in my chest when I heard about the sacrifices she had made for her child. Each word she spoke revealed layers of pain and strength that I had never considered. When dinner was finally served, we gathered at the table, Samuel seated proudly in his high chair, his tiny hands reaching for the food. I watched Clara as she gently fed him, her eyes lighting up whenever he laughed or babbled something incomprehensible. I couldn't help but feel a pang of longing, a desire for that kind of connection, not just with my son, but with both of them. As I took a bite of Clara's cooking, I was pleasantly surprised. It was simple yet rich with flavor, and for a moment the three of us were lost in our shared meal. The atmosphere lightened, laughter replaced the tension, and I found myself enjoying the newfound camaraderie. I watched as Clara wiped a bit of food from Samuel's mouth, her touch tender and familiar. After dinner, I offered to help with the dishes. Clara raised an eyebrow, but didn't object. I knew I had a long way to go, but each act of kindness felt like a step towards mending my fractured family. As we watched the plates, the rhythm of the task gave way to easy conversation. Clara revealed her dreams for the future, her aspirations for herself and Samuel, and I felt a swell of admiration for her. "I want to give him the world," she said, her eyes glistening with passion. "I want him to have everything I didn't." In that moment, I understood. Her dreams were not just for herself, but were rooted in the love she had for my son. I wanted to support that, to be part of a future that included both of them. As the days turned into weeks, my relationship with Clara deepened. I began to take an active role in Samuel's life, realizing that I had missed so much during my years of selfish pursuits. I observed the way Clara guided him, instilling values that I had overlooked in my ambition-driven haze. The joy that filled our little home was infectious, and I found myself looking forward to returning each day. Yet, lingering in the back of my mind was the unresolved tension with Ellen. I knew I had to confront the truth of our relationship, the damage I had caused, and the love that still flickered beneath the surface. One night, as I sat with Clara and Samuel, I made a decision. It was time to reach out to Ellen, to seek closure and understanding. Perhaps it was possible to rebuild the bonds I thought were irrevocably broken, not just for my sake, but for Samuel's future. With newfound determination, I picked up my phone and dialed Ellen's number. As the ringing tone echoed in my ear, I felt a mixture of fear and hope. This was the moment of truth, the chance to start anew, to mend what had been shattered. "Hello?" Ellen's voice was tentative, yet I could sense the weight of our shared history between us. Taking a deep breath, I prepared to open the door to a conversation that could change everything.